Well, I thought I'll show you some newly found records. It's Sunday today, it's the last Sunday before it's time to get back to work. So I'm mainly relaxing, listening to some great music and so on. And I thought, well, I found some jazz albums that I haven't showed you. But I could start with it. This isn't jazz, of course. This is King Crimson, In the Wake of Poseidon. New pressing, and you can see if I hold up the sleeve, you can see the lovely texture of the sleeve. I think you can see it. Very nice texture. 200 grams, and very good pressing. Sounds superb in my book. And I saw now that their third album, King Crimson, I can't remember the title right now, but that will be released soon on in this kind of issue as well. So that's good. Also, I'd like to show you this one. Jackson 5, Maybe Tomorrow, and it's a German Tamla Motown issue, and I don't know if you're going to believe me now, but this is actually the first album in my collection that features Michael Jackson. I haven't got anything by Michael Jackson. I'm not that much of a fan of Michael Jackson, to be quite honest, but I like some of the early stuff he did with Jackson 5, and I found this for almost nothing, so why not? And it's great condition. Right, to some jazz then. This is another issue in the very long-running French RCA Black and White series. This is a compilation of a group called Boots and His Buddies, and I think they were a local band from San Antonio who mainly recorded there and also toured there. So I listened to this earlier. Quite good jazz from the late 30s. On the, let's see if I'm correct here. Yeah, San Antonio. All the recordings were made in San Antonio. Okay, this one then. Bill Berry's LA Big Band, Hello Rev. And this is a Concord jazz issue, live at the Concord Summer Festival. I don't know that much about it, although it's from 1976. And a lot of Ellington-inspired material here. Vocalion compilation, Mel Powell, Out on a Limb. English issue. Recordings from the 50s, but I'm sure this is from the 1970s. I'm quite sure about that. Let's see. 1973. Yeah. Lester Young album here. Press at its very best. On Mercury, Jazz Master. The recordings are from the 1940s, and it says on the label 1944, but of course this album is not from 1944. It's probably from the late 70s or 80s. It's a Dutch Mercury issue. Duke Ellington on V-discs. V-discs were these records that were produced for the US Army. Very rare today. So these recordings are quite scarce to find. This is an Italian issue on the Jazz Live label, which I think is connected somehow to Durium. That seems to have been, I think of these old flexible 78 RPM records, hits of the week, when I think of Durium. But I think Durium was active as a brand name longer time in Italy. Nice collection on Regal. Everybody Swing, with a very nice cover here. We got Fletcher Henderson, Benny Carter and Andy Kirk. And this is, as you can see from the sleeve, sometimes from the 60s. I think this is from 1968. when it comes to these EMI issues, I don't know, I'm sure you're very familiar with this, but I can show you if you're not familiar with it. If you want to know when the record was issued, you go down here and let's see if I can. If you can see here, oh, this is very, very small. Don't know if you can focus. Yeah, there, 1268. That means that this was issued in December 1968. Jazz Spectrum, Ellingtonia, Volume 17. Johnny Hodges, Lawrence Brown, Henry Carney, Ben Webster, Louis Bellson. On the Metro label, that must have had something to do with the Metro Goldwyn Mayer, obviously. Hence the Lion. This is a German issue, I think. And the recordings are recordings from the early 50s. And as you can see on the back sleeve, Jazz Spectrum was a whole series of jazz compilations. This is quite nice. On CBS, Newport, live unreleased highlights from 1956, 58 and 63. And we got a hell of a nice double album here with so many great artists. We have Louis Armstrong, we got Rex Stewart, Ben Webster, Willie the Lion Smith, Benny Goodman, Teddy Wilson, Dave Brubeck, Miles Davis, Thelonious Monk, Jerry Mulligan, among others. Very nice. This is an issue from 1982. Here's an older issue from the 60s on the Ace of Heart label, Jumpin' at the Woodside, Count Basie and his orchestra, from 1966. Another record in the Italian I Grandi del Jazz series, Jimmy Rushing, with some recordings from the 50s and early 60s here. And this nice, these very nice issues. And I'm only sad that I don't understand Italian, because you can see nice pictures, but also lots of interesting text to read, if you could. Alright, a Swedish issue, another one of the tax label that I talked about before. AIE, Americans in Europe, 33 to 38. We talk about jazz artists like Bobby Martin, Herman Chittison, Bill Coleman, Freddie Johnson, Arthur Briggs, and different recordings made in Europe by these jazz bands, recordings made in Paris and also in Hilversum. And this is another one in this tax series, tax label series that I talked about before. And that's a Swedish label. That's as much as I know about it. Alright, and finally, Bunny Berrigan, also on the RCA Black and White series. Nostalgia, the best of Bunny Berrigan, Volume 1, 1934 to 38. French issue here. Well, that's it for this time. Thanks for watching.